Tell me about your sister. What do you remember about her?
She was very loud. She was an amazing sister. She was like the ideal older sister. We were just under 6 years apart, but still very, very close. Speak on the phone every day. Would have like sleepovers in each other's rooms when we were younger. And just very, very bubbly. Very different in many, many ways. I was probably a lot more academic than she was. She was quite a party girl, but very, very creative, very arty, an amazing artist, and was pursuing a merchandising role with Karen Millen, which is a big clothes fashion brand down in London. And that's actually where she was when she had her brain hemorrhage. We weren't really just sisters. We were very much best friends.
This is the Recovery After Stroke podcast with Bill Gassiamas, helping you navigate recovery after stroke.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Recovery After Stroke podcast. Recently, Spotify released a new feature which allows people to now rate their favorite shows in the same way the Apple Podcast app allows it. If you think the show deserves it, I'd love it if you left us a 5-star review. This will help the show rank better on search engines and help newly diagnosed stroke survivors find the show, and it could make a massive difference in their recovery. So if the show is doing something for you and it's helping you, then please do me a favor and leave us a review so that hopefully other stroke survivors can also find the show. So go to your favorite podcast app, share what the podcast means for you as well. It'll make a huge difference. Now, this is episode 187, and my guest today is Fiona Moss, who 10 years ago lost her big sister, Natalie Kate Moss, to a brain hemorrhage aged just 26. In that time, Fiona, with her big brother, Sebastian, and with the support of their parents, set up the Natalie Kate Moss Trust, a charitable organization raising money in the hopes of supporting groundbreaking research into the prevention and treatment of brain hemorrhages to stop more tragedies occurring. Recently, the charity handed over a check to Manchester University valued at a massive £300,000. Fiona Moss, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here. Very rarely do you get the opportunity to speak to people about how stroke has impacted the loved ones. You very rarely get the caregivers on. You very rarely get the family members on to tell us about their side of it. It's really a conversation that's not held much. And then every once in a while, I come across people such as yourself who are doing great work in sharing the perspective of a family member who has been impacted by stroke or some kind of a neurological injury. Mm-hmm. And very, very rarely do you get to speak to somebody who's been doing that raising of awareness for such a long time, nearly 10 years or more. I think you guys have been at it. Tell me a little bit about you, who you are, what you're doing, and why you're doing it.
Yeah, no, I can completely understand that. And I think there's many different perspectives, to be honest, on that. Like, it touches everyone in very different ways. But as you said, my name's Fiona Moss. I am British, although I'm not currently in Britain. I'm currently in Mexico. But as you say, I am a family member of somebody who has been impacted and unfortunately passed away from having a brain hemorrhage. So my sister was 26, and this was, as you say, 10 years ago. It was in 2011. I feel like we also get lost with the concept of time, given that we've had the 2 years wiped out by the pandemic. But she had a brain hemorrhage completely out of the blue. Didn't know anything of it. And was unfortunately in intensive care for just under a week and passed away. And ever since, obviously, given somebody passing away at such a young age, but something completely out of the blue. It really shook everyone up around us. My family, obviously, our close friends, but, sort of the wider circle that you don't necessarily really, you probably don't even really consider, so to speak. And, it really did shake everyone up and think, wow, life is too short. We didn't even know this could happen to young people. And it really made us take action that we didn't want this to be, something that happened and for no reason. So we set up the Natalie Kate Moss Trust in memory of my sister, Natalie. And that was in 2012. So around about 6 months after she passed away. And the aim of the trust essentially is to support Manchester University, again, a university in the north part of England, which is where she went to university, and their research team to look into the prevention and treatment of brain hemorrhages. And we're really proud to say that actually through our support to them, they've made some incredible steps forward in their research. Obviously at the beginning, I think it was quite a small trust, and it is relatively still really small, but, we were very much sort of reliant on people just kind of helping out. But as things have grown, people have done some incredible things, whether it's sort of cycling the length of Britain, whether it's rowing around Britain, whether it's running for 5 days straight, running 100 miles with a keg of beer on their back. People have done some incredible things. And we really committed, again, I think lost concept of time. I think it was about a year and a half ago, just before the pandemic, we committed to Manchester University £300,000 over the course of 3 years. So we're sort of at the end of the first year from when we actually officially started it, to really enable them to step up their research and, bring in more research fellows and essentially to set up this center of excellence. So there's not really one center of excellence really in the UK. I can't really say in Europe, but I know in the UK for this particular type of research. So whilst it's not a physical center, it's a center of excellence bringing together, the best minds in this particular field to really kind of start making headway in this area. So as I say, we're sort of midway with it's sort of the end of the first year now. And things have really leveled up. We've been able to really step up in terms of the awareness of the trust, the work that Manchester are doing. And hopefully we're going to be able to continue this as well beyond the 3 years and really support them to keep making leaps and bounds in this area.
Far out. That's just amazing to hear. I get so relieved when I hear there's people working in the background to help people they've never met before, to find solutions for problems that they never know they're going to have in the future. When I became unwell in 2012, I had this curiosity about finding solutions and finding answers to the challenges that I was now facing. And I ended up finding in Melbourne, Australia, I found the Florey Institute, which is a neuroscience and mental health research organization aligned with Melbourne University. And I just remember going to one of the lectures, just turning up to a university. I'd never been to a university in my life. I just remember turning up to one of the lectures where they had some speakers talking about neuroplasticity. And I was just stunned at the amount of people that were there that had never necessarily had any reason to be focused on solving those types of problems for people. And yet they were. And it was like, oh, wow, like those people are there actually working for me, looking for solutions for me. And they don't know me. They've never met me. And that's what they're doing. So I always get really kind of humbled by the fact that that's happening. And I've never felt so supported, even though I've never met any of those people. And even though it's you doing it and you're supporting the team in Manchester, that all filters down to the neuroscience world throughout the globe now that we're one community, and everyone benefits from the work that you guys are doing in Manchester. £300,000 is probably equivalent to about 700 billion Australian dollars. But the reality is it's probably around 700,000 Australian dollars.
Yeah.
Which is just a phenomenal amount of money. And then I'm thinking at the same time, how old were you when your sister passed?
I was actually 3 weeks before my 21st birthday. So I had this like big 21st party. Like I don't know if it's the same in Australia, but 21st is quite a big birthday. Yeah. And it was literally 3 weeks before, it was just before Christmas. And yeah, I was in the halfway through the second year of my university. And it was a big moment, a really big shift and a really big change in the dynamic. And it was almost like that moment of, going from like a real adolescent teenager into really having to step up to be an adult.
It's just ridiculous that has to happen. And I know it happens for a lot of people. You're not the only one. The question is I consider myself pretty dumb at 21, and that's pretty normal. That's pretty cool, right? That's what you're meant to be, kind of, right? And then how the heck does a 21-year-old decide 6 months later, we're going to do something and we're going to start fundraising and gathering money, and now 10 years later you're raising $300,000 for Manchester University? How does a 21-year-old come up with that idea and then actually follows through with it for an entire decade and turns it into this thing that you could never have possibly imagined that it would have been?
I would love to take the credit for this, but it would be completely ungenuine if I did. No, I've got an older brother as well who is 7 years older than me. So he was 27 when this happened. So they were very close in age. He was a real driving force behind this, if give him credit where credit's due. And but I do remember my mum, in the weeks after that Natalie passed away, really saying like, no, this isn't going to happen for no reason. We're going to make sure that people remember her. We're going to really make sure that we do something. And this isn't just, we're just not going to forget about this. There's some good's going to come out of this. So those two particularly at the beginning were the real driving force. And it's actually been more over time that I've become more of a, basically taken on a bigger role in the trust. Because I think at that point, if I'm being completely honest, it is really hard. It's very confusing. I was still trying to figure out how to navigate university and, go through this change. I just lost my big sister, and like she was very much a role model to me as well. And so that was a real shift in terms of almost like re-identifying, who I was. And whilst my friends were going out, at this university, you just said it, right? 21, carefree, and all my friends were living that life. And then I had this stark reality on me. So I was really trying to navigate that at the same time, saying that I did, help where I could. But I would say the real driving force was definitely Sebastian and Mum at that point. But I think it was always been important to me. But as I've probably matured and come to terms with it over the years, I've taken on a bit more, and now, really, really behind it, driving the flying the flag to try and really push it on to the next level, I guess. As I said right at the beginning, it kind of had it was very different in terms of the outlook that we had on the trust. We were just sort of relying on incredible people who were doing incredible things, but we weren't really looking at it, I guess, strategically is the right word. If anything, if we really want to make a change, we do kind of have to do big, bold things and think strategically behind it, which does change the dynamic when we want to grow it and actually have more of an impact on, supporting Manchester University, and also, the research that comes out of all of that as well. So yeah, it's definitely it's been a journey. We talk about it being 10 years down the line, and I'm so incredibly proud that it is, still growing 10 years later. But that's definitely required some sort of shifts in dynamics. And, we've actually been able to fortunately bring on a fundraising manager now that we've up leveled in so many different ways, because you'd be surprised about how many like little admin things that do come up. And we've essentially been running a separate business on the side of, both my brother and I run our own businesses. So it's definitely a juggling act.
Yeah. 1 in 4 people will experience a stroke in their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
A person suffers a stroke every 3 minutes and 27 seconds in the UK. It's a similar statistic in Australia and in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Stroke kills twice as many women as breast cancer and twice as many men as prostate cancer and testicular cancer combined each year. Do you still feel like stroke is the big unknown and we don't talk about it much, we don't hear about it much? When I say we, like communities in general, I've been at this for 10 years as well, right? But I don't hear about conversations in the space of raising awareness like about stroke, like I hear still the Cancer Council, the go and get your prostate checked, go and do this and go and do that. There seems to be such a massive discussion about those types of things still, and they do a great job of raising awareness and saving lives. But there still seems to be this underlying thing with stroke that hasn't really come, the conversation hasn't really come to that level. That's the sense that I get. Do you get that? Or
Yeah,
do you have
100%.
something different?
No, I do definitely agree with that. I think there's probably two things to say there. The first is that there's almost, I feel like sometimes with these things, whether it's supporting a charity and, you know, supporting a different condition, especially when someone's been personally affected, they become so proud's not the right word, but focused on that then it almost becomes competitive in this, you know, strange way, you know, that we really need to focus on, you know, breast cancer or prostate cancer or whatever. And kind of then that's the only thing I can focus on and forget the other things. I definitely see that in some way, not that people are doing that in any sort of unkind way, but, you know, you become so passionate about it. You can't be passionate about everything. So I think that there's part of it that is around that. But I also think that it probably lends itself to a bigger conversation that we generally probably aren't very good at talking about any of these things, whether it is stroke or some other conditions or even cancer. But you're right that is a lot more, it is a lot more talked about, but actually probably to the depth that we need to talk about it or getting the checks, etc., is still very hush hush. And I actually think that's more of a cultural thing. And regardless of what condition it is, we probably need to be not just creating structures and systems that enable us to be checked in whatever way that we can be checked, or, you know, encouraging us to know the signs, etc. But also we should be encouraging more honest communication and deeper levels of communication that really allow ourselves to create those structures and really allow ourselves to be able to have the conversations, particularly if someone has suffered a stroke and, you know, they are dealing with that. Quite a lot of people, and I probably imagine it's quite similar in Australia to it is in the UK, where it's quite stoical and they don't know what to say. So actually what they do, their response is to stand back rather than try and understand the situation and try and understand how can they help, how can they understand more. And it's quite, as I say, it's quite a stoical approach. And I think if we can shift the way we approach the conversation itself will change. And as such, the way we approach, how do we better support people to understand, how do you deal with somebody who's suffered with a stroke? You know, how can you support them? How best can you communicate with them as well? Because, you know, I've been through grief a number of times, and I think in the same way, people don't know how to talk about that. And so therefore their response is actually, well, I just won't talk about it. And I will stand back, because saying nothing is better than saying the wrong thing. Whereas I would really encourage people to actually just learn to understand, ask questions. I never think you can ask a bad question because you're engaged and you're wanting to learn. So yeah, 100%, I would totally agree that I don't think we have enough conversation, and whether that's conversation around supporting somebody who suffered with a stroke, supporting those who've lost somebody through a stroke, supporting to understand the signs. It is very much a probably taboo, but also just unaware, like lack of awareness comes through as well. People don't know what they don't know at the end of the day as well. So those stats, you know, there, you know, obviously I've heard them, that we have them on the website, but it is horrifying and, you know, harrowing. but quite often, we take the approach that ignorance is bliss and it won't happen to me. But I think that lack of awareness, preparation, ultimately helps no one. Because at some point we do get affected by something. And again, going back to it, whether it is cancer, whether it is stroke, whether it is something else, but having those integral skills to be able to deal with those situations, I think is so incredibly key.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's helped me sharpen my skills in learning how to overcome challenges, learning how to solve really complex problems now, because before the problems that I had were just imagined, and now the actual problems, they're real. And I've got to actually then solve them and learn about that. And solving one problem might take 6 months or 12 months. It might seem like it's a long time, but I'm backfilling the whole time with learning about, okay, so how do you solve that problem? It's gaining the skills to get to the point where I can solve that problem, whatever that problem is. That is what takes long. And sometimes when you're recovering from stroke or you're caring for somebody that's had a stroke, it's hard to find the time to squeeze in backfilling your knowledge to get you competent enough to be able to solve the problem that you're facing, which is still inevitable. But that's the thing, it's time is real critical, and finding the extra time is the hard part, or even finding enough time in one day to just be of the right frame of mind and energy levels after a stroke or recovering from a stroke is really difficult. So what's really interesting to me is that the way that you speak about stroke is like a stroke survivor, in that you have a very deep level of understanding of what it's like. And I find that very rare in people who haven't had a stroke. To try and have a conversation with them about what it's like is near impossible. What makes you how did you kind of bridge that gap? Because that's a big gap, and to find well-meaning people supporting stroke survivors who have got no idea how to relate to somebody that's had a stroke is frustrating and challenging, although it's heartwarming that they're doing amazing things. But you've bridged that gap. How do you think you managed to do that?
So obviously, as I said, earlier, that I was 20 when Natalie passed away, and obviously that straight away shifts your perspective on things now. But it shifts your perspective to understand a bit more about grief and to understand about the impermanence of life, and to really recognize that you're not, things can happen to you, and it's not just a story you hear or whatever. These very sad, tragic things can happen. But if I'm being honest, I don't think it was necessarily Natalie's death that had that impact. So my boyfriend got diagnosed with cancer when I was 25, and he had cancer for 3 years. And that really made me aware of what it's like to live with something that is so debilitating. So, like you say, it's about, you might not have the time, or you do have the time, but you just don't have the energy, right? And you just don't want to. You're not in the headspace because this, that, and the other. You're frustrated, you can't do something. And it's not as black and white as when you are healthy. And you can, like you said before, maybe you had beliefs that you made up, or problems that you made up. Like, I can have problems that I make up every single day right now. But that's very different to actually having a physical condition that is actually impeding you from doing something. And then the effect that has on your mental health, and how frustrating that is. And having lived with somebody who has had that problem, and really lived through that pain and the challenges, so many challenges, not just the I can't do this or I can't do that, but as I said, the effect on your mental health, on your belief system, on everything, baby. And then ultimately on the conversations that you have with other people who, like you say, who just get it, who don't get it's not that easy because you haven't slept the night before, because of this, that, and the other, you know, that one thing that worked one day is not working today, and how incredibly that frustrating that is. Or maybe you made plans and you have to change them. You know, life is certainly not linear by any means when it comes to that point. So that really gave me a very deep understanding of what it is like, you know, to be constantly living with something. And as well, you know, even recently, I've been moving through and traveling around and living in Latin America. And one of my best friends who I have been away with has type 1 diabetes. And whilst it's kind of it's not the same, obviously it's a very different condition, she still lives a very full, abundant life. You know, she's traveling through Latin America, living in Mexico City at the moment. She still faces this every single minute of the day, through the night. You know, it's not something you can just put down and go for a walk or something. And having again that another situation very, very similar come in and just remind me of how lucky, you know, I am, and other people in my situation, where my challenges, be it whether they are made up or not, I can probably put them down and walk away. But I'm very acutely aware that some challenges you really can't. And yeah, I guess that's just really sort of embedded me this understanding. I can't understand it, and I wouldn't be able to understand it because I've never lived actually in it, but I've had the closest experience I possibly could have had.
I was afraid that you would say what you said, and that the only way to really bridge that gap is unfortunately to experience other people's or your own pain and suffering in a situation that is part of life. It's just life, right? And then now you're living it and you have to learn how to live with it. But what you said about your friend with diabetes is, that's the thing about it. It's like it becomes, if you don't manage it, you will die. It's as simple as that. So it has to be managed. One of the things that I find with a lot of stroke survivors is they re-traumatize themselves every time they notice one of their deficits, or they fall over or whatever, and they go back to the moment when it happened and they relive it, instead of having moved on from it and discussing it objectively. They are imagining the entire process of the first instance, for example, right? So I talk about the stroke every single day as well, but I don't relive the experience. I talk about it as something that happened in the past, and I've almost separated the left side numbness from the stroke. It's just something that I have, that when I wake up in the morning, I have to make sure that my left leg is actually touching the ground before I stand up, because I get out of the bed on the left side, and if my leg is numb and I don't pay attention, I could fall over and end up into the mirror or into the wardrobe. So that's kind of just life every day now. And the fact that it happens, I know it happened, that happens because of my brain hemorrhages and brain surgery, but it's not what's happening to me now. It's just me waking up in the morning and going about my business, you know, waking up my sleepy leg, which has another 45 minutes or an hour to go before it's fully awake, even though it's always going to be numb. When you guys do the work that you do on a daily basis for the Natalie Kate Moss Trust, do you ever feel re-triggered? And does discussing your sister and what the fund is doing, what the trust is doing, bring back those emotions? Have some of them not been dealt with, or still are they appearing?
Yeah, no, and I actually think this goes back to what we were saying earlier, which is when we don't have the capacity or the understanding about how to discuss certain things, people shy away from it and they don't know how to deal with it. And I actually think that being able to understand how to have those conversations is actually incredibly healing and empowering as well. And I think, you know, you do really start to understand a bit more about life. You know, you could go deep and we could go into this a lot more, but you could talk a lot more about, like, you know, the impermanence of life. And actually, I think so often people get scared of those conversations. But, you know, through these events, through my own life, I've become very acutely aware of that. And actually, I've been able to take those situations and learn from them and move forward and grow with them as well, and use them as impetus to move forward. Again, this is probably another reason why we've taken another level in the trust, because, you know, we really want to make sure that we're not just doing this for fun. You know, this isn't just a nicety. This is actually to really make a bold step forward. And I think, of course, I mean, I think, is it the Kubler-Ross, you know, 5 stages of grief, you know, there's, and, you know, that we've all been through the process of sadness and guilt and anger. But, you know, ultimately it's about moving forward into that level of acceptance as well. And it does take time. Of course it does. I'm in quite a big self-development world. You know, my business is all around that. Which then forces me into doing that as well. And I do truly believe that actually by facing into it rather than avoiding it, and accepting that every time I'm going to have this conversation or mention Natalie's name, I get triggered. I don't want that to be the case. You know, I want to be able to almost shift the story, and, you know, recognize that maybe this is actually, you know, unfortunately so, but actually, rather than dwelling on it, how can we use her situation and what happened to her as a way, you know, for something much bigger, and as a way to support more people. You know, just like you said right at the beginning, you know, we can do work to help people who we don't even know and stop them from having the same tragedies that we've had in our family and our life as well. But I do really believe that actually, rather than being triggered by it every single day, to do the work, you know, really go into it. You said it before about the, you know, the skill sets to move you forward. This is no different. And it's how can you create the skill sets to be able to navigate this situation, and to go in and ask the really hard questions, and to support yourself. And that will depend on where you are in this journey and how much time has passed. But I'm actually not really a believer of healing comes with time. Time does help to a degree, but you could still be caught up in that place where you get triggered every time if you're not willing to maybe step into the horrible place where you do have to kind of maybe do some of this work or face into it or have the conversations. But it's a skill, and like any skill or any muscle, we have to train it and we have to do the work around it. And yeah, I'm quite comfortable talking about all of these things now. Very comfortable talking about death. Very comfortable, you know, talking about Natalie, because I do truly believe that, you know, I've done that work, and it doesn't mean I don't miss her. It doesn't mean I'm not incredibly sad by it. It doesn't mean I wouldn't love to have her, you know, in my life right now, and, you know, for everything that I have in the future. But I've come to peace with it. And that's incredibly empowering, because what that then allows me to do is so much more for other people in this space.
Yeah, you're controlling the controllables and you're letting go the things you can't control. And you're not really controlling the controllables. What you're doing is you're using the controllables. You're going, okay, what can I control? Well, how I respond. I can respond by doing nothing, or I can respond by making life better for other people. And that's fulfilling. And it's a little bit about you, but it's also a little bit about them. And that's a lovely loop of, that's a great reason to do something that's about you. You feel better about it, but man, they feel better about it, and they're going to achieve success in the work that they're doing at the university, and therefore they're going to impact lives better. And we're all doing this amazing loop of being on the planet to actually make each other's lives better or different or more meaningful, or at least make people feel like, hey, we care for you. And even though we've never met you, we're rooting for you. We want you to be well, and we want you to recover. It's far better than the narrative at the moment around the world and what we've just gone through the last couple of years. And if there was more of that, it would be great. And being triggered every once in a while. I still get triggered. I'll get up and talk on the stage and I'm having a great day. And then I'll say something and I'll start crying. And then it'll be like, oh, okay, here we go again. I just get through this, let it out. It actually endears the crowd way more to me than than I ever could plan. So it's like, oh, okay, all right, okay. I'll get all of the emotional, I'll bring them aboard emotionally even further. So it's kind of a positive, and it's never a negative, by the way. When I cry, it's always a positive, because it means, I don't necessarily know what it means, but it means something when it's happening. It's meaningful. I don't know what, but it doesn't matter. It just feels good to do it.
And I think as well, we are human beings. So there's a very big difference between being triggered every single time so in my situation, if I named Natalie or if I spoke about it every single time, then someday, just something just triggers you, and that's a human being. But actually, it's by developing, as I said before, developing that skill set that goes, okay, well, this has happened. So how do I deal with this today? And how do I move through it, rather than allowing it to pull you down every single time? If you had allowed that to do every single time you spoke about what happened to you 10 years ago, you wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't be standing on stage. You wouldn't be doing any of that. And I just think it's, I think there's an acceptance that it doesn't mean everything goes away, but it's being able to move forward with the situation or the hand that you've been dealt.
Yeah. Tell me about your sister.
If you've had a stroke and you're in recovery, you'll know what a scary and confusing time it can be. You're likely to have a lot of questions going through your mind. Like, how long will it take to recover? Will I actually recover? What things should I avoid in case I make matters worse? Doctors will explain things, but obviously you've never had a stroke before. You probably don't know what questions to ask. If this is you, you may be missing out on doing things that could help speed up your recovery. If you're finding yourself in that situation, stop worrying and head to recoveryafterstroke.com, where you can download a guide that will help you. It's called 7 Questions to Ask Your Doctor About Your Stroke. These 7 questions are the ones Bill wished he'd asked when he was recovering from a stroke. They'll not only help you better understand your condition, they'll help you take a more active role in your recovery. Head to the website now, recoveryafterstroke.com, and download the guide. It's free.
What do you remember about her?
She was very loud. She was an amazing sister. She was like the ideal older sister. We were just under 6 years apart, but still very, very close. Speak on the phone every day. Would have like sleepovers in each other's rooms when we were younger. And just very, very bubbly. Very different in many, many ways. I was probably a lot more academic than she was. She was quite a party girl. But very, very creative, very arty, an amazing artist, and was pursuing a merchandising role with Karen Millen, which is a big clothes fashion brand down in London, and that's actually where she was when she had her brain hemorrhage. But very, very sporty, and all my family are, and we were a very, very close family, and just very fond memories. We used to go to Spain every summer, so I have lots of fond memories of doing silly things out there. And I think that's one of the hardest things, really, is that we weren't really just sisters. We were very much best friends, and I think actually that's almost harder, particularly when you imagine, especially as a girl, you imagine her being your maid of honor, or bridesmaid or whatever at your wedding, and an incredible auntie. I don't have children now, but my brother has one, another one on the way, and she would have been just an incredible auntie, the sort of auntie I imagine her to be, which was just let you get away with stuff and would probably allow you to drink alcohol a little bit too young, that sort of auntie. And I just a lot of fun, had a very cheeky attitude. And beautiful, like absolutely beautiful. So an incredible sister to have.
Sounds like she also liked to be a little bit of the center of attention.
One would say, yeah.
Which means that she would be absolutely loving all this stuff being done in her honor and about her and with her, etc., because she's still part of that whole process. What is she thinking about you guys doing all this stuff in her honor and to help other people? Is she going, you guys are honoring me, or it's amazing that you're helping other people? What is she thinking?
I probably think would be thinking both. She was a very, very kind person. So she would be the sort of person that would drop everything to be with other people, and even more so me. She would be the first person to make sure somebody's birthday and they were celebrated and they were showered with love, or sponsoring somebody to do something. She was always the first person in the queue to do anything like that. So very, very, very giving. And I certainly believe that she would be immensely proud that she's probably, I imagine, probably not so much that it's about her, but actually that, she's been able to be the catalyst for such good. And just a real reflection of the character that she was, like, whilst fun and electric and wild, also, as I say, incredibly, incredibly kind. And I think she would be immensely, immensely proud that her name is being, driven forward in this way.
Yeah. What about your big bro? What kind of role does he play? What does he do?
He does all the stuff that I don't want to do. The numbers, that sort of side of things. No, he's done an incredible, incredible job. As I said, he really drove it forward for many years, and he deserves so much credit for establishing the relationship that we have with Manchester University, particularly in the early days, and getting everything rolling. He very much has laid a great platform for us to grow off, and I'm really, really proud of him for that. And actually, it's really beautiful to kind of be able to work with him on this, and to be able to come together as siblings to support our other sibling. It's quite it's a really, really lovely thing to be able to do with him as well. So yeah, we've got lots of fun, exciting plans. We've got a massive 10-year anniversary fundraising dinner that we're holding for 300 people in October, which is quite a big event that we're trying to organize. And that's sort of one of my main roles. So I'm roping him in on some odd things that I told him about the other day, and he wasn't so pleased, but I'm sure he will be on board. So yeah, but it's actually quite fun and it's exciting, and we've been able to bring in lots of amazing people, whether it's doing charity bike rides, the London Marathon, and bringing them all together is really, 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 really lovely.
What's your brother's name?
Sebastian.
Sebastian. All right. Let's make sure that we acknowledge him correctly. We just won't talk about him in the third person. I like, does he kind of pull rank as well? Does he do the whole, this is what's going to happen today, I'm not doing this, I'm not going down there?
No, unfortunately, that's probably me. So he's probably, I imagine he might listen to this and be like, well, yes, that's probably true now. But no, he's amazing. Like he really is amazing in a way that he's kind of really allowed me to now take the reins in different areas, and really allowed me to just go with it. He's probably quite relieved, to be honest, as well, that somebody has really come in to support. But he's great to kind of work with on it, as I said before. And yeah, is really happy for me to kind of just run with some ideas, no matter how mad they are. And yeah, he's been great, been really, really great.
In a moment, I want to talk about the donors, but before I do that, what about your parents? How are they going these days? What's how are they sort of involved, and what do they think?
I think, I mean, any parent losing a child, no matter whether they're a child or an adult, is heartbreaking. And I know it really, really broke my parents' heart, obviously. But I definitely believe that, and, as I said earlier, like my mom got really involved in the trust and, wanted to be involved, wanted to go to all the meetings with Manchester University and be really there and attending and supporting where she could. And in the early days, we did things like charity clothes sales, which she organized, and, is doing things like that as well now. And it's just incredible. I think, they, as I say, they help in that capacity now, sort of where they are, but it's definitely Sebastian and I sort of taking the lead. And I think it's just been a lot for them, over the years to kind of come to terms with it. But they're doing amazing job with it. And, they're really kind of like living life the way that, I think Natalie would want them to as well, albeit they would go on big trips, but they haven't been able to because of lockdown. So hopefully they'll be able to go on something quite monumental quite soon. But, they've got an incredible grandchild. Sebastian's son, Max, is they absolutely adore him. So they've got him, another grandchild on the way from my sister-in-law as well. So they I think we're a real collective family unit. And I actually think that having the trust has really helped, maintain that. I definitely know other families that maybe have fallen a little bit as a result of a death of one of them. The structure change, the dynamic changes. I would definitely say that Natalie was like, because she was the middle child as well, she was definitely like a rock between everyone. So the dynamic hugely shifted. So we were all just, again, not only going through grief collectively, individually, but also the dynamic shifted, and we were having to relearn that dynamic as well. So and it took a while, I guess, to kind of come to terms with it, with all of that as well. So but I think definitely with the push that we're doing with Manchester University now, it's really given everyone a bit of a focus.
Great. There's a boring part of everything that you're doing, and that's the numbers, but it's probably the most important part, because you're relying on donors to give you their money, and then you want to make sure that what happens at the other end is the money goes where it's meant to go and not in places it's not meant to go. Talk us through a little bit about that process. So one day I'm walking down the street of Manchester and there's somebody saying, hey, give us some money because this Natalie Kate Moss Trust is raising money for research into brain hemorrhages, aneurysms, whatever. And I want you to know that that's actually going into the research team directly right now. Talk us through how important that is for your organization, how transparency is really important, and how you guys move through that from that place where you receive the money to then actually delivering it. How does that all happen?
And I think this is where, a small charity is actually, in a way, probably has a lot more power than a bigger charity, or a lot more, can actually deliver what they're saying they're delivered to a degree. I'm not saying, bigger charities don't, but being able to say, this money is directly going to this. And we had a big dinner at Twickenham Stadium in literally 3-4 weeks before the pandemic. And we had Manchester University talking there, and we could quite easily talk about the money that these people have given us over the years and literally what it's gone to, because we have such little things in the middle that is going to impact the donations. And that is incredibly empowering, and we can be really powerful. It can be really powerful to say that money has directly delivered these results. It's very rare you get that with the big charity, but we can literally say that we've done this type of research and that's shown us this, which I think is actually incredibly motivating for donors as well, that they can directly see like what what their money is going towards as well. Our fundraising, we talk about this £300,000, but we deliver £100,000 every year. So that's sort of our rolling target every single year. but it's like anything in this, right? The more we can raise, the more we can support them, the more results we can deliver. And that's what we're after ultimately. You know, this isn't about profit or anything like that. This is not lining anyone's pockets. This is real results. And as you said right at the beginning, this is real results for people that we, you know, don't even know, to our potentially ourselves, you know, in a few years' time. You know, this can happen to anyone. You read the stats out before. So this is really about supporting, you know, that prevention, obviously the treatment as well, but that prevention as well. And but I think it's incredibly motivating for people that are donating to know where that money is going. You know, like anything, you want to know what you're spending it on. So yeah, obviously a big part, you said the biggest part of it ultimately is around the numbers. But this is where we're really trying to get people involved. We've got lots of different things going on in terms of this our fundraising plan, is whether it's a 300-person fundraising dinner, whether it's people doing a 100-mile bike ride. We've got a number of places in different bike ride challenges, a marathon, a 10K, whatever it may be, and inviting them in to do that. And then we've also got principal sponsors as well. We're actually looking for a few more as well. So if anyone's listening to this and intrigued, then please do send us an email. But you know, we have a principal sponsor who we work with, and we are working with over the 3-year period. And they've been incredible. You know, they're a gym of about, I think they've got about 120 members, and 14 of them are running the Manchester Marathon. They do fundraising events all year, so they're really drumming up the awareness of the trust as well as supporting us financially. So, you know, having that level of support, and then it's, you know, you talk about those numbers in a sense of how many people, or actually what you're saying about, do we have enough of a conversation around it? Well, actually, you know, there's a lot of people at that gym, and friends or family of them, who have really been affected by some sort of neurological condition, whether or not them or a child of theirs or a parent or a sister or a brother. And so they've really been wanting from an emotional level to step up and to help as well. So I think, you know, the more people we can reach, I think we'll start to see that more people are emotionally will want to help us as well from a personal point of view, because it does affect so many people. So it is a big part of it. It's definitely something we've got a strong plan for over the coming years. And I said before, you know, it's a bit more strategical than it was. But, you know, it is about just making sure that we're reaching the right people who want to support us as well. We don't want to be forcing anyone to, you know, to make a donation when it doesn't necessarily connect with them. But as I said, you know, Manchester University are creating have been able to create such, or make such steps and create this center of excellence. It's called the Jeffrey Jefferson Research Center. And that wouldn't have been possible without all these people, you know, supporting us in the way they have been. So the results are kind of there. They're proving themselves already.
How many hours do you reckon? I know this is a tough question. Do you reckon goes into raising £100,000? How many hours?
I don't know. There's been a lot of work gone in over the last year or so, just making sure that we get 50 places in a marathon and we get them all filled, and we do all the admin around that, and we support everyone. That's just one small part of it, let alone this 300-person event that we've got coming up in October. You know, there's just so many ways, even just thinking strategically about, okay, how are we going to do this? Where are we going to get the money from? Getting sponsors in, supporting them. And this is a charity that Sebastian and I run on the side. You know, as I said earlier, we've got businesses as well. So it's been a lot of work, but you said it before, you know, ultimately it comes down to purpose, and it comes down to the reason why we're doing it. And there's a very clear reason why we're doing this, who we're doing it for, but actually what we want to achieve out of this as well. And it's by having that purpose, that's what's helped us ensure that it carries on for, you know, it has carried on for 10 years, and it will carry on, and it will grow. Because even when it's late at night or a Sunday morning or whatever it may be, you know, we're sat down and we're doing we're planning around it. We're doing the admin around it as well to make sure that we keep pushing on.
And you're running your own business, and you're living your own life, and you're being an auntie, and Sebastian's being a dad. And my God, you guys so much energy that needs to go into this. And then you probably got, I know in Australia, government regulations and things that you need to comply with and abide by and report back on. Is it similarly strict in the UK?
Yeah, there'll definitely be certain bits. That's in Sebastian's remit. But there's a lot of things that we do need to comply by. I think we actually shifted from we were registered as a trust right at the beginning, and we converted to a charity. I can't remember. It was a very, very long process.
Yeah.
But actually, by becoming a charity and having a charity number, it's enabled us to do a number of other things. So it's quite from a fundraising perspective, and actually being able to get ourselves in different arenas, it's actually been really, really helpful. But yeah, it's like running a business, right? You know, there's accounts that need to be submitted, there's all the other legalities around it that we just need to make sure that we're ticking all boxes as well.
Do you receive donations from people from other countries, far and wide?
We do. Yeah, we receive donations from anyone. We've had a number of different people do things all over the world. We ran an event actually in February called the 10-10-10 challenge, where we asked somebody to commit something 10, like go for a 10K run, 10,000 step walk, whatever. It's something simple. Donate 10 and nominate 10 people to do the same as well. And then we have people all over the world doing that, whether it was in Lima, in Peru, or America, Egypt. We had some people in Amsterdam as well. So yeah, some incredible people supporting as well. But we've had people doing different challenges from all over the world, and we're so incredibly grateful for people. You know, we have people who set up direct debits as well that I don't even know them, and they've kindly set up a direct debit to support us every single month. So, you know, there are some incredible people out there. You know, we're setting up a system and a process, but it's the people who support us who really are the incredible people.
Yeah. I mean, it can't be done without them, really. They've come together to support you. They're probably being impacted in some way, shape, or form, and they may not, and they certainly don't all need to have the energy that you guys have to run a foundation to this level, but they're thankful that you're doing it. So they just support you for doing it, and then they don't have to put so much energy and effort into it. They're more efficient at supporting than you guys. You guys spend so much time doing it. But I love that you do it, and I love that it's your passion, and I love that you found your purpose, and that purpose, I'm sure, helps to fill your cup when other things get difficult, when the rest of life catches up with you and you're going, oh, well, you know, things are tough at the moment. Okay, let's do a little bit of heart-centered work and go back to, you know, the trust, and think about our big sister and, you know, the family at large and the rest of the community that's benefiting. And it's like, wow, man, that's a really great reason to be around on the planet for.
Yeah, I agree. And ultimately, you know, it's purpose as well, but it's kind of like what you were saying before. It's like some problems we do make up, and we get really frustrated, and that kind of grounds you when you have this work to do, that you recognize that, you know, this happened and we couldn't control it, but I'm getting frustrated by something that I shouldn't really be getting frustrated about. You know, it doesn't matter. And it really does ground you actually by having this work constantly kind of on the go.
One of the things that Stroke's done for me is it's reminded me, well, it's done lots of positive things, but it's really reminded me of how important it is to catch up with people when catching up is on your mind, but you don't really get around to it. It's like, because I've lost a few people in my time, you know, I'm 47, so there's been plenty of people that have come and gone since I've been on the planet, and will continue to do so. And it's like, I have this thing that's popped up into my head recently in the last sort of 6 months, and I've been grappling with it because I don't want to seem insincere when I say it to other people, or I don't want to come across as being blunt or rude or anything. But it's like, we haven't caught up with certain people for a period of time. We've been supposedly, you know, trying to catch up for 6 months or 12 months or whatever, and COVID was a good excuse for a long time. We all love each other, but then we found other excuses. We all want to catch up, but then we found other excuses. And I'm like, if I did die, all of those people that I haven't been able to catch up with for the last 7 months would definitely make time for my funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, trying to get them to make time to have a bloody beer with me is near impossible. And I don't want to say that to them because I think that might be a bit abrasive or harsh or whatever, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. And that makes me then go, I'm going to try again. I'm going to call them again, or I'm going to catch up with that other person who has said that to me, that we need to catch up and we haven't made it happen yet. So I'm really motivated to continue not missing out on those moments that could not happen again tomorrow onwards. Like it could just not happen again. That's it. And I don't know when, and I hope it's when I'm 99, but it could happen before then. So does this whole work that you do, does it remind you that you need to pay attention to the people that are around you and that you love because of the same reason that you or they or anyone could just not be here tomorrow?
I definitely think that this work, and obviously the perspectives that I've kind of discussed, like particularly with Natalie and also like with my boyfriend as well, has completely shifted my outlook on life. Like I'm very much like what you're saying is about, you know, living today, right? And I'm a big picture thinker, and I want to do all these big things, and I want to make an impact, and etc. But I'm also at the same vein, every single day will be very aware of those small moments, because I appreciate it is the small moments that make life. It's not one big thing, one holiday a year or whatever it may be. It's every single day. It's the small moments. It's the moments between moments that are actually really, really powerful and really beautiful. And that's what makes life. And I think understanding your priorities, really recognizing what you want from your own life, and understanding what relationships support you to do that, and support you to be your best self, and support you also to just, I don't know, just connect more with your own life and really allow you to live life to the fullest in the way that you want to do it, the way that's fulfilling for you. Because there are many different relationships that we have in our lives, and some will stay, some will go, you know, some come in for a reason and then leave for a reason as well. And I'm a true believer in that. And I'm a true believer that not everyone needs to stay too, but it has certainly made me want to, for those who I'm deeply connected with, you know, I want to spend every minute with them, and I want to talk to them all the time and share moments with them and share experiences with them as well. I'm a believer in terms of my relationships. I want to have deep, meaningful relationships, just that I want to do stuff in my life that is meaningful, live places that are, you know, providing me with experiences, rather than just superficial things. But that's me, and that's how I want to enjoy my experiences. So yeah, I definitely prioritize those relationships which enable me to do that, because they are the most fulfilling for me. So if I did die tomorrow, I know that I'm cultivating relationships that make me feel like that, rather than necessarily hanging on to specific relationships just because I've had a relationship with them in the past, whatever that relationship looked like. And I think by shifting the lens on it like that, it really enables you to be like, okay, well, if I speak to them, I'll have an amazing time. If they're there today or they're not there tomorrow, doesn't mean I don't love them less. It doesn't mean they've not had an impact on my life. But do I want to prioritize constantly feeling like I need to chase someone? No, probably not. I want to be able to sit down, enjoy life, enjoy my own company, you know, go travel the world, have these experiences, have deep, meaningful conversations, and discuss the things that matter. And that's what matters to me. Again, that's different for everyone, but I think that's the way I approach it. And naturally for me, that makes me less scared if I did have something happen tomorrow. I'm not worried that, I'm scared that I feel like something isn't done, something isn't complete. You know, there's so many things I want to do, but I can't today. I can't do everything right today. And there's always going to be something I want to do. When I'm 99, there's going to be something I want to do, because we can't complete everything in the world. But I know that I'm living in a way that allows me to do that. And I think that's, I find a sense of peace with that as well.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. Where could people go to find out about Natalie Kate Moss Trust? Where do they go to donate? How can they follow you on social media?
Yes. If you would be so kind to support us or to find out more about us, we have a website, which is www.nataliekatemoss.co.uk. Our Instagram, we do have an Instagram account, which is Natalie_Kate_Moss_Trust. So just chuck in 3 underscores in there. And if you do want to donate, the best place to go is on our website, and you can find different ways to donate. The main place is we have a Just Giving account. And so it's just super, super simple. And we also have a text to donate that's only available in the UK though. So if you are UK based, if you have any UK listeners, but you can provide on donate on Just Giving anywhere in the world.
Yeah. If I was in the UK, I would definitely be attending your event. And if I ever get to the UK, I'll probably go to the website, find out when the events are, and then be there at the same time so that I could attend an event. A 300-person event, raising money for this amazing foundation in memory of Natalie, done by the family, I think would be just an amazing thing to experience. I really want to thank you for the work that you're doing for the people that you don't know. And for me personally, who is benefiting from the research that's being done in the universities across the planet by people that don't know me. I just find it fascinating that somebody wakes up in the morning and they go, you know what, I'm going to work out how neuroplasticity helps people survive or overcome this. And I'm like, man, I wish I was that smart to come up with something amazing like that. Or the best I could do was trying to find out how to paint somebody's house. And it was like, good as that is, this is next level fulfilling. So thanks for that. Thanks to Sebastian as well for all the work that he does. And I'm going to subscribe to your newsletter, and I encourage other people to subscribe to the newsletter to be kept up to date with what's happening. And I wish you well with all your future projects and your own personal life and business.
Thank
you.
I
look forward to connecting with you in the future.
Thank you so much for having me, Bill. It's been great. And I just want to say as well, like, thank you so much for running this podcast. You know, we said it right at the beginning. Is there enough conversation going on around stroke? No, but you're facilitating that and getting the ball rolling. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks again for being here and joining us for another episode. I hope you enjoyed the show and got something out of the conversation. Please comment, like, and share. Please give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Leave a comment. I love reading them and responding to them. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell so that you can get notified of any new episodes as they go live. And this will also help the podcast to rank better and therefore be found easier by other stroke survivors from all over the world and their caregivers, so that hopefully they can have a better stroke recovery. Thanks again for listening, and I look forward to bringing you the next episode.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gassiamis. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.